I caught my wife cheating, then she tried to run over my girlfriend. Now she's in prison and I got everything. Hey folks, I'm a 35-year-old guy, and I used to be married to my ex-wife, Cassandra. She's 34 now. We were together for 6 years. Honestly, our marriage was decent overall. It wasn't some fairy tale, but it wasn't a total disaster either. We first connected on Facebook, of all places, and something just clicked between us. The dating phase was actually really nice. I was careful from the start, though. I kept my eyes open for any red flags because growing up, I watched my mom treat my dad like dirt. She was emotionally and sometimes physically abusive. I swore I'd never end up in a relationship like that. At the time, Cassandra didn't show any warning signs. Everything seemed okay, so eventually, we tied the knot. In the beginning, married life went smoothly enough. But then, about 2 years in, we started having these major blowout arguments about once a month. It got to the point where it was just mentally draining. Still, I stuck around and kept trying. I figured, we had a solid start, right? Maybe we just hit a rough patch and could find our way back. I even brought up going to couples counseling more than once. She agreed once, but after that first session, she flat out refused to go back. I think it bothered her that the therapist didn't immediately take her side. That didn't sit well with her. That's also around when her temper started showing. It wasn't something I'd seen before, not when we were dating. We were supposed to dig into that more during therapy, but like I said, it ended after day 1. I always suspected her change in attitude had something to do with her dad passing away, but she never confirmed it, and I couldn't say for sure. To be clear, she never got violent or broke anything, but the yelling got intense. Eventually, we just settled into this weird rhythm of existing around each other. We still had some good times sprinkled in there, but the spark we used to have? Long gone. Even with all that, I was still in love with her. I knew deep down that if things didn't shift soon, we were probably headed toward divorce. But I wasn't ready to give up. I've always believed marriage isn't something you just quit on unless there's abuse, cheating, or something huge like that. I think that's enough background for now. So, I'm not some high-powered exec or anything where I work, just a middle-of-the-road employee. But my job does have me traveling out of state sometimes. What I'm about to share happened during one of those trips. I had flown out for an industry expo, supposed to be a 4-day thing. But on the 3rd day, all the company reps got called back early because of some work emergency that needed more hands. Being the reliable guy I am, I caught the next flight home. Only thing is, I didn't tell Cassandra I was coming back early. My reason? I wanted to surprise her. At that point in our marriage, things were feeling dull, like we were both just going through the motions. I thought maybe something spontaneous might reignite a little bit of that lost excitement. So when I got home that day, I picked up her favorite flowers and headed straight to the house. I had my key, of course, so I let myself in. I knew she was supposed to be home, so when I didn't see her in the kitchen or living room, I figured she might be in the bedroom. I walked straight there, opened the door, and well, I'll never forget what I saw. There was a man on top of her, doing exactly what you're thinking. I could hear her moaning, and to this day, the image is burned into my brain like a scar that won't fade. The shift in light when I opened the door must have tipped them off, because they both scrambled up in a panic. I stood frozen in the doorway while they fumbled to get dressed. The guy threw on his boxers, grabbed his clothes, and tried to shove past me to leave. To this day, I don't know if he knew she was married. I don't know if he was a regular fling or just a one-time thing. All I know is, in that moment, I grabbed him by the throat with one hand, not to choke him, but I had a tight grip. I slapped him twice. I can't explain why I chose that of all things, but that's what I did. He looked stunned. For a second, it seemed like he was gonna fight me, but then I let go of his neck, and he took off. After that, I turned back to Cassandra. She was standing there, struggling to get her bra back on, and I was just frozen, holding those damn flowers, staring at her like a fool. She wouldn't look me in the eye. Didn't say a word. Just got dressed and tried to fix her hair. Then, out of nowhere, she says, "Why are you even back?" I swear, in that second, I felt this urge to do to her what I'd just done to the guy. I was shaking with anger. I wanted to hit her so bad. But I couldn't move. I was stuck. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She muttered, "You weren't supposed to be back," under her breath. I stayed quiet. Didn't know what to say. And then she completely lost it. "You weren't supposed to be back. This is your fault. If you'd told me you were coming, you wouldn't have walked in on this. I asked you for an open relationship, and you said no. I have needs. I tried not to hurt you, but you had to show up unannounced. Why?" That was when I finally walked across the room. I grabbed her by the collar of the t-shirt she'd just pulled on and raised my fist. She looked terrified, and maybe that's the only reason I stopped. I'm not sure what would have happened if she hadn't looked at me like that. But I stopped myself. It's not a moment I'm proud of. Even with everything that happened, it's not something I brag about or feel good remembering. But I'll be honest, there's a darker part of me that still wishes I'd hit her, just to get that feeling of, I don't know, justice? Instead, I let go of her and walked out. As I left, she started yelling behind me. You were going to hit me? Seriously? That's why I don't love you anymore. You call yourself a man? You're a joke. You make me sick. And on it went. At the time, I couldn't wrap my head around why she'd say those things to someone who had just been on the verge of hitting her. Later, I realized she might have been trying to provoke me, to push me over the edge so she could call the cops or have me thrown in jail. I didn't give her that satisfaction. I walked out. I had to. I didn't trust myself to stay in that house another second without doing something I'd regret. The smell of them was still thick in the bedroom, all through the house. I ended up crashing at a friend's place that night. My buddy was incredibly supportive when I told him everything. He didn't downplay it or try to brush it off, he genuinely felt for what I'd been through. Right off the bat, he told me I needed to divorce Cassandra as soon as possible. Now, I wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea, not because I wanted to stay with her, I was way past that, but mainly because lawyers cost a small fortune, and I was the higher earner in the marriage. The thought of paying her alimony made my stomach turn. He explained that if I had solid proof of her cheating, it might help reduce what I'd have to pay, maybe even significantly. Let me be clear, I wasn't hesitating because I had some wild hope of patching things up. That ship had sunk. I knew divorce was the only way forward. I'm not that foolish. Cassandra, though? I think she just snapped after I caught her. She started sending me these insane text messages, talking about how small my manhood was, how her new guy was bigger and better in every way, just straight up cruel stuff. It felt like she completely lost control of herself, like she couldn't handle getting caught and didn't know how to process it like a normal human being. Instead of remorse, she lashed out. She even blamed me, said I'd ruined a good thing she had going with her affair partner. That's how twisted her mindset was at the time. My friend was with me when the messages came in and told me to screenshot every one of them immediately. Thank God I listened. It turned out to be the smartest move I could have made. About a minute later, I watched all those messages disappear unsent, one by one. I guess she had a brief moment of clarity and realized she shouldn't have said any of it. After that, all the texts she sent were just angry rants, no mention of cheating, just pure venom. That night, my buddy mixed up a few strong cocktails for me, and eventually, I passed out from exhaustion, both physical and emotional. Roughly 2 weeks later, I finally found a divorce attorney who didn't cost an arm and a leg and actually seemed competent. I showed him everything I had, the messages, the timeline, the context, and he told me we had a decent case to build from. He didn't sugarcoat it, though. He said I'd probably still have to pay something, but he'd fight like hell to minimize it. Soon enough, Cassandra was served with divorce papers. And of course, in true Cassandra fashion, she waited almost an entire month to respond. I think she did that on purpose, just to drag things out. By that point, it was obvious to both of us that there was no saving the marriage. Neither of us wanted to be with the other anymore. Once the divorce process officially began, she made it her mission to be as difficult as possible. Any chance she got to complicate things or throw a wrench into the proceedings, she took it. She wasn't trying to save the marriage, she was just trying to make me miserable. By then, we'd already been living apart for months, so there was no reason for the hostility except spite. And unfortunately, it was working. I was drained, frustrated, and just ready to move on. During all this, I was trying to heal, to let go. I'll admit, at first, I fell into a string of one-night stands. I thought maybe that would help numb the pain or make me feel wanted again. But pretty quickly, I realized that wasn't me. That's actually part of the reason I never agreed to the open relationship Cassandra had pushed for. I've always been a one-woman kind of guy. Back in the day, I used to be big on reading, especially fiction, but over time, work and life pulled me away from that. So, in the middle of all the divorce chaos, I decided to try and reconnect with the things that used to bring me peace. One afternoon, I wandered into a bookstore, just looking for a good sci-fi novel, but I had no idea where to even begin. While I was browsing, I noticed a woman standing in the same aisle, looking through some of the same titles. I asked her if she had any recommendations for someone getting back into science fiction. She asked me what I liked, and just like that, we got into this long conversation about books, favorite series, authors, all of it. We must have stood there chatting for a good half hour before I picked out one of the books she suggested. She gave me her number, and I'm smiling right now just thinking about that moment. It felt like something real, something that came naturally, without me even looking for it. Her name is Emily. We started going out not long after that. I was upfront with her from the beginning. I told her I was in the middle of a divorce. She didn't seem fazed at all. Actually, she said she appreciated the honesty, and that it didn't change how she felt. She ended up being exactly what I needed, not a distraction, not some rebound, but a genuinely kind, thoughtful person who helped me feel like myself again. Meanwhile, the divorce kept dragging on. I just wanted it over and done with, but Cassandra clearly wasn't ready to let go. She kept slowing things down at every turn. By the time Emily and I had been dating for 5 months, I was still technically married, still knee-deep in legal back and forth. And then things took a terrifying turn. One afternoon, Emily and I had spent a nice day together in town. We were walking through a mall parking lot, heading back to her car, when I suddenly heard a loud engine revving nearby. Everything happened in a blur. A car came speeding toward us, and it looked like it was aiming directly at Emily. I grabbed her arm and yanked hard to pull her out of the way, but the car still managed to clip her leg. She let out this gut-wrenching scream, and when I looked down, I saw that her leg was broken, just above the ankle. I scrambled to call 911, but the car that hit her crashed into another vehicle and started reversing. Now it was facing us again. I had to physically drag Emily between 2 parked cars to get us out of the way. That same car then drove forward and plowed into a few more cars nearby. By then, people had started noticing the chaos and were running toward us. That's when the driver's side door opened, and out stepped Cassandra. In some twisted way, it made sense, but also didn't. She had always had a temper, but this? This was next level insane. It hit me all at once. She hadn't just lashed out in anger, she had tried to run us over. She had aimed for Emily. She tried to kill her. She started walking toward us, looking completely unhinged. Thankfully, a bystander grabbed her and kept her from getting any closer. I stood there stunned, watching a woman I used to love lose every shred of sanity in public like that. The police and ambulance arrived soon after. Emily was rushed to the hospital, and Cassandra was arrested on the spot. As they cuffed her and led her to the cruiser, she screamed at me from across the parking lot. "It hasn't even been a year, and you're already out here with some whore?" I remember just standing there, numb. It was scary, yeah, but it was also baffling. She was acting like she was the one who got betrayed. Like I had done her wrong. As if I hadn't caught her cheating in our own bed. It blew my mind that she was actually playing the victim in all this. What happened that day was easily one of the most traumatic moments of my entire life. Emily could have been killed, no exaggeration. Spoiler alert though, she made a full recovery, thank God. I'm beyond grateful for that. When I told her who was behind the wheel, that it was my soon-to-be ex-wife, I truly believed she'd be done with me. I mean, who wants to stick around in a relationship where your partner's unhinged ex literally tries to run you over with a car? But Emily? She just looked at me calmly and said, "Well, as long as she's locked up, I don't have anything to be afraid of." Thankfully, the prosecutors decided to pursue the case full force. The parking lot where it happened had several cameras, and every inch of what Cassandra did was caught on video. Apparently, she'd driven by us once before, spotted us, and then looped back around for another pass. That second time, she aimed straight at Emily. There was no doubt it wasn't a moment of rage. It was premeditated. She saw us, made the choice, and didn't hesitate. Because of that, the divorce basically had to be paused. When someone becomes the centerpiece of a criminal case that's serious, court schedules change fast. And if you thought jury duty was annoying, just try being directly involved in something like this. It dragged on for a long time and seriously messed with my job, which just added to my stress. And Cassandra? She wasn't worth even a fraction of it. For the prosecutors, though, it was a slam dunk. They had witnesses, video evidence, and both me and Emily gave statements and testified. The charges were stacked high, and she was found guilty across the board. The worst one? Attempted murder. And honestly, there was no way to argue against it, especially since she tried to come at us a second time with the car. In the end, she was sentenced to 12 years in prison. I was shocked it wasn't more, to be honest. They said it was because she showed remorse and had no criminal history. She also had the option to shave time off her sentence if she behaved well in prison. I wanted more time, no lie. But 12 years isn't nothing, especially for someone in their mid-30s. She'd be losing a huge chunk of her life. That gave me at least some peace. Despite being locked up, she still had to attend parts of the divorce process remotely, though her lawyer handled a lot of it on her behalf. Once she was behind bars, things finally started moving along properly. And thanks to her little stunt with the car, the judge wasn't feeling generous. She ended up getting absolutely nothing, like, not a dime. The court refused to reward her with a single thing beyond what was already hers going into the marriage. And let me tell you, the satisfaction I felt at that moment? It was like everything had come full circle. After all the heartache and chaos she caused, it was justice, plain and simple. Cassandra's been completely out of my life since then. And even though I know she'll be out someday, just knowing she's gone for now has made it so much easier to breathe again. I ended up moving out of the apartment we used to share. That place was just a constant reminder of her betrayal. Emily and I found a new place together, and life has been incredibly peaceful since. She even jokes about being the sacrifice that got my ex put away. She says it with a smile, but I know she really went through hell. Looking back, I don't know what I could have done differently. Maybe I should have left the moment Cassandra's temper started to show. But besides that, I did what I could. I tried to hold the marriage together. I tried to be the better person. If I've learned anything, it's this: don't ignore the signs, even if they come later. People can hide who they are at first, but eventually, the truth comes out. Avoid the crazy ones, even the ones who seem perfectly normal in the beginning. At the end of the day, I'm in a much better place now, and that's what matters most. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your jokes, whatever you've got. This community really helps me get through all this stuff. So for about 2 weeks, I was playing the role of the doting, supportive husband waiting on her hand and foot. I was trying to be there for her, believing I might be a father soon. The day of her doctor's appointment finally came, and I went along, sitting by her side like any excited dad-to-be would. They did the ultrasound, and it confirmed what she already knew: she was 7 weeks pregnant. But right away, something didn't sit right with me. I did the math in my head, and that timeline didn't add up at all. 7 weeks back? That would have been while I was away at training. I turned to her and locked eyes. The look on her face said it all. She looked scared, like she knew what was coming. Then she broke eye contact and bolted into the bathroom, sick. I stood up and walked out. The ultrasound tech was left stunned, probably wondering what just happened, but I didn't owe them an explanation. I went straight to the car and sat there, boiling with anger. A few minutes later, she came running out, visibly panicked, and climbed in beside me. That's when everything came out. I laid it out for her: the dates didn't match, and the only conclusion was that she had cheated on me while I was gone. Probably one of those nights she couldn't talk. At that point, she broke down, sobbing, and admitted it was true. She tried to keep talking, tried to explain herself, but I didn't want to hear another word. I just told her to get out of my car. I said it again and again, not even giving her space to speak. Eventually, she climbed out, still crying, and I peeled off without looking back. That woman, the one I thought I knew since high school, she wasn't real. The whole life we'd built, the intimacy we'd shared, it meant nothing to her in the end. She threw it all away for some guy she hooked up with while I was chasing my dream and serving our country. She called her mom to come pick her up. Not long after, her mom showed up and started pounding on my door like I was the villain in all this. She demanded I come outside. Instead, I spoke through the Ring doorbell and told her I wanted absolutely nothing to do with her or her lying, cheating daughter. Her mom actually had the nerve to ask how I even knew the kid wasn't mine. I took a deep breath, clenched my jaw, and told her the conception window, smack dab in the middle of my training camp. That hit her like a ton of bricks. She turned and stared at her daughter like she was seeing her for the first time. Under her mom's gaze, my wife crumbled. Right there on the front porch, she sank to the ground, sobbing like a child. Her mom just stood there for a minute, kind of stunned. Then she turned and asked her flat out if it was true, if she really did sleep with another man while I was away. And my wife, she said yes. Hearing that out loud must have made it real for her mom, because she just shook her head in disbelief and walked back to her car. My wife jumped up and ran after her, pleading for a ride, begging for help. She didn't know where to go or what to do. She kept asking what she was supposed to do now. After a few painful minutes of begging, her mom finally let her in, and they drove off. Later, before the divorce was finalized, we got the DNA test results. No surprise there, I wasn't the father. At that point, I didn't even care to ask her anything else. I didn't need an explanation. I was done. All I wanted was to move on and never look back. I started hoping and praying, really, that someday I'd meet a woman with real character. Someone kind, loyal, and proud to be with me. And years later, after finishing my time in the army, I found her. I'm proud to say my wife now is the most beautiful woman I've ever laid eyes on, and what makes her even more special is that she's not vain about it. She doesn't crave attention, doesn't chase likes on social media, and doesn't need validation from anyone but me. She's a strong, traditional woman who shares my values, and together we own a farm, far away from all the chaos and noise of the world. We're expecting our first child now, and life feels whole for the first time in a long time. As for my ex? Well, she's pregnant again, her fourth kid now, with a new boyfriend she's only been with for 5 months. He let her and her 3 other kids move in with him because he's getting older and says he wants a family. But honestly, I don't see that lasting.